All right, I think we're live. So let me kick things off. Hey guys, this is Josh. Thanks for tuning in again. I've put together a few videos for you guys, part of the Qortal community, for how to build your Qortal core, your Qortal UI, resolving some different issues from time to time as well. Got a real treat for everyone today. We're going to talk with one of the co-founders of the Qortal blockchain project, Jason Crowe. So quick introduction. Many of you guys know him as part of the Qortal community. I think I've got this right, but there's 18 co-founders. Is that number?
That's correct. Yeah.
18. Yep. So 18 co-founders, Jason being one of them. And what we want to talk about today is, I think starting out for me, and even why I got interested in crypto and blockchain in particular. I'm a finance guy. That's kind of my day job or whatnot. And as I started to learn more about the money system and just how crazy money really is. And like I said, I've been in finance for, my entire career. I'm not 65, but I'm not 25 either. And you start to realize that nobody really understands how money works. And once you do, and you really grasp how money works, you start to realize that it's just a big Ponzi scheme and it's bound to blow up at some point. Yeah, right. And a book I'll quickly recommend for anybody who's listening would be The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin. If you haven't read it, go read it, go get the audio version of it, whatever you need to do, and probably go through it a couple times because you're going to need to absorb some of that information. Even just think something simple, and then we'll get into Cordal and the blockchain. In finance, there's something called the rule of 72, which is basically you can figure out how long it's going to take for something to double or to halve. If you think about like just 2% inflation, which is the number that they say that they want to target, it would take you 36 years for a doubling to occur. So the Fed's been around for a little bit over 100 years. That should be about 3 doublings. So $1 should slowly lose value, and it should be about $8 right now, right after 3 doublings. So 1 becoming 2, 2 becoming 4, 4 becoming 8, about 3 if you go 2% inflation. Well, $1 today, according to the Fed, so the guys who run the money, $1 is worth about $27 today. So we've gotten another doubling past 8 to 16 and almost another doubling to 32. And if you look at some other stuff, I mean, oil, the price of oil, it's 60 times more expensive today than it used to be back in the early 1900s. Silver is something like over 1,000 times more expensive. Gold the same way too. So again, you start to think about these things and you're like, holy crap, what's going on here? And then I think that's where, crypto starts to come in and things like Bitcoin, right? Where people get interested and they go, wait, we can have this new capped supply system, only 21 million that's ever going to be created. So we don't need to have this infinite supply of money just evaporating in front of us. So to me, that's kind of how I got interested in crypto and blockchain. I'd love to know a little bit more about maybe how you got into it. And if you want to talk about, Bitcoin and all, and then we can get into more about the Cordal side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I was always a tech guy, right? So you were the finance guy, you got interested in the finance side. I was the exact opposite. I saw the technology and realized that blockchain technology had a massive potential, a lot more than just being used for money, a lot more than what Bitcoin was demonstrating. But what Bitcoin was demonstrating was something that was pretty unique and awesome as well. So I got into the mining side of things to start with, because I was like, well, wow, I can just take these computers that I have at my house and turn them on and make them generate money for me. Now, that was a really interesting concept. So I was like all into the mining. The very first thing I did was try to do it with this. I only had a single quad core CPU back then, and I tried to mine Bitcoin on that. Obviously realized I couldn't do that with a CPU even at the time, because they had already moved on to ASICs and even past GPUs. So I got in at 2013, which they were already starting with ASICs and FPGAs for mining. So I couldn't even do it on my computer. So I ended up going and finding altcoins that could be mined on normal computers, right? And so I found a bunch of different ones and started with Prime Coin, which I thought was really cool because it also had mathematical value behind it in calculating prime numbers for the chain. So I thought that was cool. Added another value to it, right? Then I was like, okay, so there really wasn't anything that really did what Bitcoin aimed to do, right? Like, because the idea behind Bitcoin was that anyone, everyone, by the people for the people. It was literally supposed to be run by the people for the people. So anyone was supposed to have been able to become a node and start mining and help process transactions, have the potential to win the lottery ticket in getting that block that became signed into the network, and you get rewarded for it, right? Like, so it was supposed to be anyone that was able to do that. Now, in reality, the theory didn't really play out the way that it was supposed to, right? Like, so, and I didn't find in my time in the crypto space since 2013, I did not find that one solution where it really worked out the way that it was supposed to, right? Like, and so the whole time that I was in the crypto space, I led a couple different projects. Burst was the first one that I actually ran, that I started the team for. I mean, since everything's open source, I can just come in as a guy with some ambition and say, look, I've got some people here that I know that are good developers, and we can kind of like help out this project. Would you be okay if I started a core team and helped this project out? And so that's what I did. And everyone, of course, was fine with it because they didn't have any like leadership. And so we kind of like formed a leadership group and like helped the project, right? And so I got into doing that, and I learned a lot about crypto. I learned a lot about the way the base level of all these things work. I learned a lot about just how the open source community is supposed to work. And a lot of the time it didn't go the way it was supposed to, right? And so I kept thinking in the back of my mind, like, okay, there needs to be a better solution than what exists now. And Burst was pretty cool because it used a new algorithm that actually ran based on hard drives. And so you could plot hashes to the hard drive that were pre-computed hashes, and then you read through those hashes and submitted a deadline to the chain, which was really cool. But the problem there is once I sent this algorithm to a couple of my really smart friends, they realized that the algorithm itself was flawed. And so it was able to be at least tricked into pretending like you had more hard drive space than you did, which is obviously a major flaw. So it was really cool, but it didn't really have that thing that allowed it to be the one, right? So all this time I've been just thinking like, how are we going to make something that actually does follow the rules that were set forth with the Bitcoin white paper that says we want everyone, regardless of who you are, to be able to contribute to this network and get rewarded for it, and get rewarded for your contributions, and be able to use it and make use of everything that it can provide. And at the same time, I wanted a network that was able to do more than just be finance, right? Finance is great, and it's awesome to be able to take and remove that power from the centralized authorities and bring it to something that's decentralized. But the problem there, again, is that now, since mining requires these machines, you can take and purchase a whole crap load of them, throw them into into like a warehouse, right? And run that all day long. And you are going to be a huge miner on the network. Yes, it's still decentralized because yes, there are a bunch of these huge miners, but that kicks out the little guy, right? No more can just somebody with a couple graphics cards or just one of these devices actually make any real money on the Bitcoin network. And the same thing is true with the way that the power has to be pooled. So all the small guys, they have to contribute their power together and then share the reward, and it gets distributed back out to them in pieces when the pool itself takes a percentage of that. So that is another thing that's centralized, right? So if you are mining on a mining pool, that mining pool has to continue to run. That mining pool has to be trustworthy. So it leads us back to, again, another form of centralization. So mining, it gets centralized by itself, where you got massive miners around that are big centralized entities. Then you centralize it again with the big massive mining pools. So right now there's probably like, I don't even know now, but there used to be about 5 or 6 large mining pools that were like basically the entire Bitcoin network. So if those mining pools were to have issues, or if they were to decide to get together and plot something against Bitcoin, they could try to do something negative against the network because they control whether it's their mining power or not. It doesn't matter. When you're mining to a pool, you are giving your power to them, they earn the reward, and then they distribute it back out to you. So they have to be fair, they have to be honest, they have to be doing what they say they're doing, and of course they're going to take a fee for providing that service, right? So it's just, mining is too centralized, and yes, it's decentralized. So people are like going to get all over my case for saying that mining is centralized. It is decentralized technically, right?
But I think you're getting at a good point beyond just the decentralization as well. There's also another layer, which is, you know, the whole idea of every man, every woman being able to contribute and earn on top of the network as well, too. Right. So when you're kicking out all of the little guys to be able to participate, then
this is the same thing that we have going on now.
System. Yes, exactly.
It's just going to build the same. We're going to take the system that we all are saying that we don't want to keep going with, and we're going to rebuild it with better technology. Now, is that actually anything that's better? I mean, sure, certain parts of it are better, because for transactions and stuff, you can do those person to person, but you still have to worry about, is the base level of that network being run in a legitimate manner, right? Like, if these big corporations that are running mining pools and these big mining farms decided to get together, which is probably not likely, right? It probably won't happen, but you have to be, are you okay with it probably not happening? Like, is that enough for you? Like, for me, it wasn't. I wanted something that was not possible. I wanted something where it actually allowed anybody to come in with a normal computer and run the network and get rewarded fairly. It needed to be fair. It needed to be, your contribution needed to be what you got back out of it. So if you put a lot of effort towards it, you should get more from it, right? And so that led us all to coming up with the concepts for Qortal. And I wrote the original paper, I don't remember exactly when, prior to launch, a while prior to launch, and we started going through concepts. I opened up that paper to everyone, and they were making comments on it, and I was changing it as I thought it was good comments. Like, oh, that's a good idea. And so we were modifying it. We basically wrote it all together. I started it, and the community helped me write it. And then we came up with the concepts for what ultimately became Qortal. And what Qortal does, it uses a completely different methodology behind everything on the very base level, by still creating a blockchain, but by doing it in a completely different way. So with Qortal, anybody actually can come in and become a minter, and you get rewarded every block. So you're not competing for each block. There's no competition. All the minters get rewarded every block. So essentially the entire network is pooled by default. So you cannot pool something if it's already pooled, right? So there's no point in pooling minting power, because you're already sharing it. So if somebody decided to go, oh, minting pool over here, and they're going to take a fee for what? What are they taking a fee for when the network already does this by itself? So really, there's absolutely no reason and no ability for a mining pool or a minting pool to exist, right? So we've eliminated the need for any centralization whatsoever as far as anything on the minting side goes. So every minter on the chain will get rewarded for being a minter, and that's it. And as you continue to mint and you continue to prove yourself a legitimate minter, you level up. And as your level increases, your rewards also increase, and your influence on the network also increases. Now, you have to just continue to be online. Your node just has to keep running, and you have to be an active minter to be contributing and to be rewarded that way, right? And so it's really just fair, right? It's supposed to be completely fair. Like, and yes, in the beginning, there are those 18 founders, the ones who actually built the project. They will get rewarded more at the beginning, but as the people level up, the founders eventually get to where they earn 5% and no more. And so as everyone levels up, more people get into the higher level tiers, the founders start earning less and less. So it was a way for us to have the funding without doing an ICO, without doing a pre-mine, without doing any of this other nonsense that I think should be eliminated from the crypto space. And we can still have the necessary funding by selling this QORT in the trade portal and allowing early adopters to come in and buy it at cheap prices, and allow us to continue doing the development, continue finding other developers and get them to help us and just build this whole open source community, right? And so that was the concept. And I think so far, I don't know what you think, but I think so far it's been working great, right? Like, yes, we had some stability issues. That's what comes along with something that's a brand new thing. Like, literally no one has ever done this before. So this is something that is completely new. The concepts are completely new. We had to build them. We had to make them work. We had to test them. We had to, get the network running and hope it all worked. And now with version 152, I feel like we're about 95, if not higher, percent stable. If you look at the chain and you look at how it used to look like before, people were all in different blocks and it was always a little bit of a mess. Right now, when I ever look at my peers, they're all within one block of each other. And it's usually they're either on the same block or one below, which is totally normal. And that's how it should be. So I think that we've nailed the stability now finally. And I'm just really, really stoked with where we are now. And that means that now we can start working on the next features, which is why Qortal was built from scratch in the first place, is because there was no other blockchain that had the capability to do more than just basically be a finance thing, right? Like, yes, they did that finance part really well, but they didn't really have all of the other necessary functionality to provide other things that could be utilized on the blockchain. So the blockchain is just a way to make everything really secure. It's a distributed database that everyone verifies. It's all encrypted, right? So it's a super secure thing that everyone can verify. And so that is something that can be applied to a lot more than just finance. And so that is what Qortal is going for. So in fact, the coin of Qortal, QORT, is not really even meant to be a finance thing. It can totally be used like that. And that's totally a possibility. People can accept it for payments or whatever, right? And it confirms in 1 minute. So it's a great thing to use for that. It would be great for that, but it's really not meant for that. It was really meant to be the coin that drives the overall value of the platform and allows for the services on the platform to have a way to be paid for, right? So when we have our data storage, the people who want to utilize that data storage will pay a small fee to put the data up, which is then unhackable data that stays there. And then the people who are hosting that data will then get paid for it, right? So that's really the idea behind QORT itself. Using it as a coin, totally possible, totally doable, but the finance portion of it really wasn't a focus. Yes, the economics behind it is definitely something that we focused on, because I do think that the release schedule and the way that it's all structured is something that's more optimal than a lot of others. I'm not saying that everything else is crap or whatever, but I don't like a lot of the release schedules behind a lot of the coins. I feel like there's always certain issues there. And I feel like this one, we did a lot of effort to make sure that it would be both very valuable and that it would go up at a considerable rate at the beginning and make a lot of excitement for people too, because that's always something that's fun to see, right? Like, but it doesn't have a cap like Bitcoin does, which I think it for a model like Cordal, I think is better, because if there's a cap there, then eventually the minters are only going to be getting rewarded with transaction fees, right? And I just don't see that working very well long term. Like I mean, with something like Bitcoin, sure, because it's so big, there are going to be enough transactions that it'll be okay. But I mean, banking on that is not something that I really wanted to do. Having new coins coming into the system all the time ensures that there's always going to be a reward for new minters. So that also means no matter when you join, you're always going to get your fair shot at making as much QORT as you can at the time, right? Yes, as the network gets bigger, there's less split between each person because there's more people, but still, it's going to be fair as possible.
But it also goes back to that supply-demand balance as well.
Right. So the value of it should be higher when there are more people, right? And so you should be getting less QORT maybe, but that QORT's going to be more valuable overall. So, and then having the ability to directly trade with Litecoin, where we don't need a centralized exchange. We're not listed on any centralized exchanges. We're not on any centralized services. And unless they just decide to do it themselves, we're not going to try to make that happen, because in my opinion, all that's going to do is open up another potential scam or a potential issue to happen, and for people in our community to lose their hard-earned QORT, right? And so that's happened to me countless times, and I'm trying to prevent those kinds of things from happening to people in our community. We have a wonderful community so far, and I think that if we continue growing with the types of people and the way that we have so far, we're going to have an immaculate community of really awesome people.
And when you bring up something like exchanges as well, there's also another element beyond just, the fraudulent exchange that might actually just abscond with your money or whatnot. Right. You also have the other level, which we've just seen over the last 24, 48 hours here, where a market can be manipulated and it can be crushed. And, without getting into all the numbers as to who owns what or whatever, there's not a lot of people that own or have considerable influence, let's just put it that way, over a lot of these mega exchanges, right? And you've only got a few
Right.
of them, and it doesn't take that much effort, especially when everything is algorithmically traded these days anyway, to trigger a waterfall type of event. So
Especially when there's a bunch of leverage trading going on and people
yes,
have short positions open and so forth. And that's not even using their own money. And then they get wrecked even harder because of that. And so, yeah, we don't have leverage trading in the trade portal. It's nothing like a traditional exchange other than the fact that you can buy and sell. It's literally just a direct trade from one coin to another at an established price. It's not able to be manipulated. There's no way that you can put up a wall where nobody can buy past that wall. You can pick whichever order you want on the list. If you want to buy a higher price, by all means, go ahead and do it. So there's no manipulation that's possible inside of the trade portal. And that's one thing that we are going to be changing. Right now, we only have the ability to list sell orders, right? We have an idea right now for redesign of the trade portal that will allow buy and sell orders to be placed, and it will function exactly the same way. You'll be able to choose any of the orders that are up on the list. You can think of it more as a bulletin board, right? People just put up these offers and anybody can choose whichever offer they want and execute that trade, right? And so it still leaves no room for manipulation. You can't put up a wall. You can't put up a bunch of money in one spot and make it look like something's going to happen. It's all going to be whatever trades have taken place. That is what's going to draw the chart. So it's going to be really interesting because it is such a different type of system. I'm going to be really interested to see what that chart ends up looking like and what that chart will be in comparison to one that's listed only on centralized exchanges. Now, if we do get listed on centralized exchanges, now that's also going to open up a bunch of crazy different arbitrage opportunities and bring in a bunch of people that are going to do that kind of thing, I'm sure. But I still think that the trade portal is going to be the main thing that sets the price. Like we have our price API there, and everyone's going to take that as the main location because it's built into the system. It's part of it. There's no need for reliance upon some other entity to dictate our price for us. And so it's really going to be interesting if the centralized exchange does list us.
It doesn't also mean that, you know, these other coins are going to go away entirely either too, right? So as you see an option pick up in QORT, there's going to be other places within crypto where there will still be centralized exchanges, coins that are being manipulated. So, you know, there's fertile ground elsewhere for funny business to be going on right now, at least in my mind. You know, one of the beautiful things that I loved about Cordal when I came into the community was it started at zero. You know, everything started at ground level.
Pre-mine, no dev tax, none of that nonsense that they do. Yeah, no ICO, none of that. Yeah, we started at block zero with 0 QORT. The QORT that exists now was minted by minters, and the founders are just any other minter. And if the founder is not minting like everybody else, they don't get rewarded either. So it's literally fair, right? Yes, the founders get a little more at the beginning. And I saw some people talking about that the other day, but look, if they're not minting like everybody else, they don't get any reward. And as everyone levels up, they get less and less. So it's really meant to just give them a boost at the beginning. And yes, the beginning is maybe a little bit longer period of time than other coins, but this is meant to be a very long-term project. This project I've dedicated my life to for the last 7 years, and it's not going anywhere. The only place that this project is going is bigger, better, faster, stronger, right? Like I'm not going to waste my life on developing something that is going to be gone in the next few years. So these things, I think a lot of these other coins, their release schedules are way too fast. They're focused on getting a lot right now at the beginning, right? And that is not what we're about. Yes, we get more at the beginning, but the beginning is also a longer period of time. And the length of the time that the chain is meant to run is longer than we're going to live. So by the time that people get to level 10 and stuff, it's going to be quite an experience to see how it gets there.
I also would add that on this idea of, you know, fairness for the founders getting a little bit more. Number one, you created it. So, I mean, I haven't done jack. I'm just a guy that's part of the community that wants to talk about it because it's exciting.
I mean, you've done some videos and stuff, and I've given you support for the stuff you've done. Yeah, man. No, that's exactly how this community is supposed to work. And that's another reason why the founders get more at the beginning, is because then I can say, oh, this person has done some awesome stuff for us. Here you go. Here's a couple hundred QORT for your work, right? Like, and if we didn't have that extra at the beginning, how are we supposed to be able to distribute it out to people when they're doing things for us and stuff like that? So it really doesn't make any sense, the argument think that founders shouldn't be getting rewarded more than the others. We're the ones who are dedicating everything we have to this to make sure that it gets out there to everybody and to make sure that, you know, all the right people are getting what they need. And we need to have that a little bit extra in the beginning to make that happen. So yeah.
And you haven't even talked about how most projects, you know, they would do something like an initial coin offering.
Oh
and
yeah.
they could have monetized it for hundreds of millions of dollars, or
Exactly.
maybe more than that.
Even
right?
the project that we took over the development of, Quora, that was one of the first ICOs that was ever done. And it was a legitimate one, obviously, but still, even a legitimate ICO is still, in my opinion, a scam of some sort, right? Like, so I hated that. I hated the fact that Quora was launched as an ICO. It only was because it had to be, because it was proof of stake only. So the only way the chain moved is if there were wallets that had coins in them, which is another reason why we don't use proof of stake, right? Because that literally rewards the people with money. So the people with money just get more money, and the more money you have, the more you get. So it's like, really? No, that's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to go for here. So yeah, like an ICO literally is, okay, so say I could have come up with these concepts that I did, wrote the same paper that I did, added a little bit more tech details into it and said, here you go, here's a white paper. We're going to do an ICO and we're going to sell off this many coins and they're going to be $25 a piece. And so we're going to sell 10 million of them, right? And I could have immediately just capitalized on that and got however much money that is in my math that I don't remember. And it would have been like, great, right? Like, okay, cool, I'm a multimillionaire now. And now, but what incentive do I then have to continue developing this project? And that's the problem that I see mostly, is that all of these ICOs, how many of them actually end up doing what they say? That's what I want to know. I think that it's a very, very small percentage. Very small percentage of these ICOs actually end up getting to even anywhere near their end result goals. They start as a token issued on Ethereum most of the time. Do they ever even get their own chain? A lot of them don't even have plans to have their own chain. So they're piggybacked off Ethereum forever. And in my opinion, that's not really a great plan, because you can see already what's happening with Ethereum and their gas prices, which I think is a hilarious thing to even call them, because gas should be eliminated, not used more, but whatever. So yeah, like it's just kind of a whole funny thing, right? And we actually did smart contracts on the Burst chain over a year before Ethereum even existed. So for them to say that they did smart contracts first is even laughable, right? And I don't know, the whole space just kind of boggles my mind, because I'm seeing all these things and I'm like, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. You don't do it like that. Like, what is going on here? Like, why is everybody falling for this? And I think it's really just kind of like FOMO. Everybody's like, oh, the crypto space. So they're like, oh, what good project? Find good project, go. And then they find, oh, an ICO, I better buy some, right? And they're rushing, right? If you stop rushing and you just actually do a little bit of research on each of these and figure out which ones were actually launched fairly, which is no ICO, no pre-mine, no dev tax, nothing that gives a huge chunk to anyone right up the beginning, no airdrops, nothing like that. If you have any of that, that just gives the people who already have money more. That's all it's doing. And that is not the goal, right? Like, if you really want something that's going to be legitimate, you have to find the ones that were launched from zero, with zero coins, and either mined or minted or whatever from that point, right? And there's only 10 of them, maybe. Like, it's really not great how many that didn't do things the right way. It's kind of mind-boggling when you really look at it. And if you actually know, like, and you look at these things, you're like, wow, like most of these are cash grabs. Like, if you look through it and down to the base level, most of them are literally just cash grabs. And it's sad, but it's true.
And you know what's going to continue to happen, and you may realize that this is sort of the way you set up the financial ecosystem, but I think so many people are still attracted to the old school way, because that's just how everything works, right? It's like, I go and I get a job. How much are you going to pay me? Oh, you're going to pay me X. Well, this job's going to pay me X plus whatever. So there's even people that I see that want to come into the Qortal project, but they're like, well, what are you going to give me? And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, the whole idea of how like money works is changing, and it should change. It's like, what are you bringing to the community? The more you want to offer and the more you want to bring, the more you're going to get out of it, right? And it's like, people don't have a good handle on, wait,
Yeah,
I can just offer something and money will come to me. It's like, yes, that's how it will work. You bring value, value comes back to you, like period.
Exactly. And that's how we're going to have a jobs market too. That's going to be built the same kind of way. It was based on Siam Open, which is a platform that the Siam developers built. They're the ones who built the smart contract for Qortal and for Burst and for Quora. And that Siam Open system is where a job provider puts up a specific job with an amount of money that they're willing to pay for it. As that job gets completed, that amount of money is automatically paid to the person who completes it, right? So that's the model I've been following in my head with anything. So if I see a developer and they're like, oh, I have 15 years experience and I'm a full stack developer, I'm like, okay, great. So we don't have any positions available. We have as many positions available as we like, right? But it's not anything like what you're thinking. I will gladly pay you for the work that you complete. So go ahead and go complete some work, show me, and then I'll get you paid for it. Like, and that's how it needs to work for this to find the people that we need to continue the whole ethos that we have going on, right? Like,
let me ask you this, Jason. So I'm not a developer, right? I don't do code or anything like that. I've found, ways to get involved with the community, help out where I can. I mint off of I used to off of this old 2013 MacBook Air that I'm on right now. I built myself a little Pi, and actually I've got another one that I'm building. Here's the little Pi kernel. Yeah, so this is the undeveloped one, and then there's the pretty one that Jason has.
Yeah, this is the final result of our creation of what we're calling the Cortector. This is just a Raspberry Pi 4. Anyone is free to build one themselves if they want to. We will be offering these in multiple different colors and available for sale here in the near future with a company that we're forming. So see, there's still an opportunity for people to build companies around Qortal and to do things with the company and do things to support the project, right? So it's not all about just doing things in this whole new way. Totally, we can build a company that sells these devices, but the only thing is, they all need to be open source, right? Like, so we're not touching anything that's not open source. Everything in this right here, you could build this all yourself if you want. We'll even give you a copy of the 3D printer file if you want to print the case yourself. We don't care, right? Like, it's not about just us being the ones. We're not Apple here trying to make something super proprietary that only we can sell because we're awesome. No. In fact, if anybody else would like to build these and sell them themselves, and even brand them and call them something else, by all means, it's all fully open source. We, as the company that is actually part of the founders and stuff, we will be giving 10% of the profit that the company makes to the project. So that's one reason to buy from us, but that's pretty much the only reason. If you don't want to configure it yourself, buy it from us. If you want to configure it yourself, you like building things, build one yourself. We'll even give you the files to do it. Like, it's really that simple. Like, we're not trying to own anything.
I'm not a developer or anything like that. And I've got, minimal tech experience, whatever, but basically I was able to leverage your guys' skills and expertise to help me build this, Cortector. It's not a real Cortector, but
it is. It just doesn't have the case. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It mints, QORT beautifully for me. And it was, very easy.
And that's another example of the minting, how great the minting system is. This is all you need. This thing can run off a USB port. The USB port can power this thing. That's how much power this thing takes. And you can use just this to run your node to mint. You don't need multiple of them. You don't need anything else. Just this one thing with your minting account assigned to it, and you'll level up and you'll earn more and more. You don't need to upgrade this thing ever. You don't need to spend more money getting a bunch of them and throw them all in a closet somewhere. No, it's literally you get one. You can even use this to replace your desktop computer. Hook up 2 4K monitors to it if you want to. It's even got audio, video editing software, document editing software, everything you could possibly need for a full desktop computer. And you can run 2 monitors, a keyboard and mouse on it, and you'll run everything you need on here. And this is 8 gigs of RAM and 4 processor cores, and it runs fantastic when we hook it up with 500 gig Samsung SSD on the bottom of it, and it'll run forever. And it'll do all you need. So this is actually probably faster than a lot of people's laptops and desktops that are old and running crappy Windows insecure operating system. This is completely open source from the ground level up. and much more secure, easy to use. And yeah, so if you don't want to build one yourself, buy one from us. It's going to be completely configured. All you have to do is plug it in and turn it on. Like,
Yeah. I mean, that's
so
so beautiful,
yeah.
right? It's like you've got, multiple layers. You've got people who just say, hey, I can take my existing computer, I can, get attached to the Cordal community. Great.
Yep.
Or I can build one of these devices because I like to tinker around a little bit and do that. Awesome. Or beautiful option number 3. I don't want any of those. I just want to buy one of those things and just plug it in and go. Like, man,
Yep.
that's amazing. So like the levels of ways people can get involved. I think that's an important point too. It's like you need developers for sure.
Any skill you have,
but
you can use.
The average person can get involved as well, which is so beautiful too. And going back to, why Bitcoin was founded and the idea that every person could be mining Bitcoin, right? We can actually get there with Qortal. We can actually achieve that, which is phenomenal.
Yes. And that's amazing. That's like the most amazing part of the minting. Like there's so many different aspects to Qortal, right? So like the minting system, that is such an amazing part of it, is that literally anyone can do it. Yes, you have to get a sponsorship. And for 5 days, you prove yourself without getting rewards. But after that, you're back on your own again. You create your own minting key, you assign that key, and that's all you need to do. So yes, it takes a little bit of effort in the beginning, communicating with someone and finding a sponsor.
But you know what? That's like the human CAPTCHA, right? I mean, it's just proof that you're not a bot, you're not an AI. No one's like coming in and like making a massive minting farm or something like that. There's these little checks and balances or barriers to entry, which are a good thing.
And they're easy too. They're not hard to get through. All you got to do is just talk to people. And the longest I've ever seen someone wait for sponsorship was like 3 weeks. And I don't think they were actively seeking it. They just came in 3 weeks ago, asked for something, and then came back 3 weeks later and said, I didn't get anything. Well, I mean, yeah, like you got to be a little bit active and, try to get our attention at one of the times when I'm awake, which is basically 12 hours a day. I'm in that group paying attention to what people are asking and answering questions. And,
but remember, this is just the early stages too. We're in the early stages before people get to level 5. There's limited amounts of sponsorships. So that's great.
And the first person just hit level 6 the other day. So this is the first level 6 account that exists.
Awesome. Good. So, I mean, to me, it's like this funnel or like a spigot is slowly starting to open.
It's meant to be that way. Like we just wanted to limit the growth of the minting so that in the beginning, we don't have millions of minters on a network that wasn't stable at the beginning. So we see exactly why we limited that growth in the beginning, because we saw the instability. We saw that we had to work out some bugs first and get to that stable point in version 1.5.2, which we just released. And now I feel very confident with the network stability. It's great. Like, yeah, sure, we probably have a few more little tweaks to make it exactly perfect, but it's been phenomenal since version 1.5.2. And thank you, Cal Descent, for all of your amazing work, and your amazing wife for all of her help. You guys are the best. And yeah, so and that's another example, right? Like the person who did all of this work, Cal, he was not part of my original team. He came into the community after Genesis and found the project and liked it, right? And then I started talking with him. He started talking with us. I found out that he's extremely skilled. And I'm like, please come help us develop the core. And so, yeah, like that's the idea, right? Like we're not trying to, and I didn't say like, oh no, here, I'm going to hire you for this set amount of money and I'm going to pay you this no matter what. No, like he agreed to, whenever I see that he's doing a bunch of work, I give him QORT, and I don't even set a specific amount. I just give him however much I feel is fair. I say, is this good? He's like, yeah, man, great. And that's it. Right. Like, so that's really how it needs to work. Like if somebody comes along and they're doing a lot of work, I'm going to value that work. I'm going to say, here you go. This is how much I value it. And if they say, oh, that's not enough. Oh, sorry. Okay. Here, I'll give you a little bit more, whatever. Or I feel like, no, I think I gave you enough. Right. Like it's just, it's a negotiation still, but it's different.
A natural supply demand, which is like the equilibrium of like, this invisible hand of how economics works, which is to say, if I'm demanding a certain amount of QORT from you, you're going to tell me, no, that's way too much for the amount of work that I'm asking. We're going to come to some reasonable number.
Yeah, we'll come to an agreement. We'll still have an agreement. Like we'll decide. And I've never had that issue. I've never once given someone a payment. I mean, I am generous. Like I'll make sure that you're well taken care of. If you're taking care of us, you're going to be well taken care of. You're going to love working for us because I want you around, right? Like I'm going to keep you around at all costs. And so I'm going to make sure that you're happy, but I've never once like given someone a payment for something and had them say, oh, this isn't enough. Because really it's more about the mentality of the people that are coming in I think they all just have the right mentality. They're about doing the right things for the right reasons, right? Like, and so I've never had that
It's the
negotiation have to
juxtaposition
take
of
place.
how human nature works versus how corporate America works. And
Right.
largely, humans are generous. We want to give more than we receive. It makes you feel good when you give,
Right.
doesn't it? Right.
Exactly.
And so if
Exactly.
you've got the corporate America system, which is like, how much time can we extract from this person for the minimum amount of money
I
that
know.
we can pay
I'd
them?
never understood any of that at all. Like it always just was like, wow, this is just dirty. Like I don't like this at all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
literally there's this like push and pull in corporate America of like, okay, well, what's the least amount of work I can do and get paid the most? And then the company's saying, what's the most I can extract from you and pay the least? So there's like these two
It,
competing like evil
it's a
efforts.
polar opposite of what should be reality, right? And that's
Yeah.
why, like the minting, anyone can become a minter. You can earn your base level income so that you can focus on what you want to focus on, and you don't have to focus on doing some job just because you have to, right? That will lead to people doing things that they like. It will lead to people being happier overall. It will just lead to an overall better system and a better world, a happier place, right? Like, and then taking it to where these things can run on a small solar panel, so we're not even hurting the environment. Like Bitcoin is running tons of those 2000 watt things, which run 2000 watts on 220 volt power, which is incredibly high. These 5 watts, 5 volts, which is nothing, right? Like that's like,
It's like an iPhone
it's so
charger.
much smaller.
Right?
Yeah, it's an iPhone charger, exactly. So it's like nothing. And so you can run this on just a small solar panel, even without a battery. As long as you have sun, it would run. And so yeah, it's just a big difference, right? Like we want to be a positive force. We want to make everyone happy. We want to have all of the people being together, working on things together, making something that they're all gonna like feel like accomplished for being a part of it, right? Like, and that's really the mentality that we're trying to foster. It's not like, yeah, no, I'm the boss and you have to listen to me because I came up with these ideas. Ha ha ha. Like, no, like I don't even say that I came up with a lot of stuff. I came up with some of it. A lot of other people contributed on it. I don't even think a lot of the ideas weren't even all mine. Like, you know, so it's like I don't even like to think of it like that. I'm like, yes, I did a lot of stuff for the project. I've dedicated my entire life to it because I believe in it. And I want other people to catch on to that belief and go, okay, so there's probably something behind this, right? And like everybody always comments on my energy and videos. That's just, I am excited about it. That's why I put off that energy, is because I am excited to talk about it. I think that it's a real solution to a lot of issues that are existing in the traditional system. Like, and
even when you talk
yeah,
about the ideas and the idea of intellectual property as well, you freely give away, hey, these are good ideas, they're open source, you believe in open
right.
source. And it goes back to that same notion of like, well, I've got a good idea, should I hoard it for myself so I can like maximize my personal greed? It's like, no, it's going to benefit me, but if it's a good idea, then I should open it up and other people
Right,
can prove
exactly. And that's
it
why
or
I'm
whatever.
100% open source, no matter what. Like there will never be a time where I say, no, we're going to do this closed source and somebody's going to have to pay us for it. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a good idea, everybody's going to be able to see that idea. Everybody's going to be able to contribute towards making that idea a better one. And then we'll take that idea and implement it into whatever things we're using it for. And it's really going to end up with just so much better overall. Like I just can't see it going any other way but good, right?
Yeah. Hey, can you talk about for a minute, you guys have built the core, the UI, right? Right now there's the trade portal functionality, but I want to talk maybe for a minute and get your a little bit more of the vision out. And it could be a year, 2, 3, whatever beyond there. Some of the things that architecturally could change in the future if people start to adopt Qortal. Maybe we're talking about
Yeah.
disruption of platforms like, how YouTube functions or things of that nature, right? Talk a little bit about like things that can be built off of the Cordal blockchain, because I think that's also where I get really excited about this stuff.
Yeah, that's like, so that's where we're moving into now. So there was phase 1, which was establish the network, get everything going. Phase 2, which was the trade portal, make sure we have a market, make sure that market functions, and we've gotten through all of that, right? And stability was a play or in play across all of those things, right? And now we're moving into what I call phase 3, which phase 3 is the one that makes everybody really excited, because phase 3 3 is the most exciting phase. Phase 3 is when we will be doing data storage, when we'll be doing the ability to host websites, utilizing the chain to secure that data so that it's essentially unhackable, right? Like, and so that's the same technology that makes Bitcoin unhackable is the same thing that what we're doing here with the blockchain. It's just another blockchain. It's just done differently, right? We don't have change addresses and stuff like that like Bitcoin has. So we don't have wallets that can get little amounts that are stuck in them that cost more to send out than it's worth. So that's another little base level improvement that we have, right? But yes, we are moving into phase 3. And right now we actually have the concepts for the data chain and for the basic data nodes already done in our heads. We are starting to build those out. I would say it's not very far off. I don't like to estimate completion times, but I'd say within the next couple months, we will be able to see the basic data storage, and a lot more can come once we have that basic data storage, because then that allows us to have the building blocks to build any number of other applications utilizing that data storage, which means that we have completely decentralized data storage on our own network, and we can use that to build applications that are then completely decentralized as well, right? So yeah, the data storage is definitely the next one of the next main focuses that we will be working on, and it might happen even sooner than I think, right? Like, but I literally don't like to guess, because this is all brand new. Again, like we're doing stuff no one's ever done before. We are going to use some existing technologies like the torrent system for the transmission of the data. I'm pretty certain that that's what we're going to use, is a torrent system for that. So anything that we can use that already exists that's good would be fine, right? But the data nodes and the data chain and the things that come along with our data storage system is all going to be custom. So for me to estimate a completion on that, I feel like I'm kind of putting pressure on the developers if I do that. So I don't like to do that, but I am going to say that it seems in our heads that it's going to be easier than we expect. And it also seems like it should be able to be completed in a relatively short period of time. So,
well, I'm not going to hold you anything, because construction projects always tend to, hit some snags. But yeah, that is exciting to hear that some of these things may even be sooner than expected.
Now that we have stability, that was what we needed before we could start working on other things. Like, we can't do anything else until the network is stable. And now the network is stable. So now we will be starting on the data storage. We will be starting on the data chain. Those things will roll out however they roll out. We have to, figure out those details on how exactly it's going to happen. When I have those details, I will be announcing them to everyone so that they will be very aware of the situation. And I do expect that it's going to be within the next couple months for sure. Maybe sooner, right? Like, it could be really, really quickly that this happens.
And can you comment on any new coins maybe coming to the trade portal as well?
Oh, right? Yeah, that's something
aspect where QORT and Litecoin right now seem to be kind of the ways in and out, right. But maybe some new coins potentially.
Oh, absolutely. And right now we have the backend support already right now existing for any Bitcoin clone that supports the locking technology that we need for the trades, right? So that's basically at least 85% of the existing Bitcoin clones, which people don't really realize, but most all of the coins in existence are either a clone of Bitcoin or a clone of Pivx or a clone of Ethereum, right? Like, and so if we build support for one of those, then we basically have support for all of the other clones as well. So all that we need a coin to have in order to trade with it is support for the Electrum network, which is the ability to do light nodes so that we don't have to run a full node of every single coin that we're supporting, which almost every Bitcoin clone has that already. So we are going to be listing other coins in the very near future. But the first thing that I want to do with the trade portal is actually modify the way that it works so that we can have buy orders and sell orders. And it will lower the amount of processing that's necessary for the ATs, which is the smart contract that actually does the trades, by a significant margin, which will give us massive scalability in the amount of trades that we can actually complete at once. So right now, to give you an example, let's say we have 250 listed trades right now, which is about right, I think. And if we have that amount of processing, every block that those trades are listed, there's a processing that takes place for every AT, right? So if we change to the new method that we're going to change to, there would only be 250 active ATs if there were 250 active trades, like the person had already clicked buy and the trade was happening, right? So that tells you how much scalability we will have just based on that change alone. So I would like to see that change first, which means that the trade bot will take care of the listings. So the trade bot we already have, right? That takes care of the issuing of the transactions. That will also take care of the listings so that buy and sell orders now, buy orders too, will be able to be listed, and the trade bot will just take care of that. Then when a person says, yes, I want to buy, or yes, I want to sell, then the AT is created, then the AT is executed. So the AT is only on the chain for a short period of time, much less processing that's necessary, and buy and sell orders both possible. So we want to make that change first. Then we can easily list a couple of other coins. We're thinking Doge, probably Digibyte, and maybe Raven coin. Those are all coins that I know were launched fairly, coins that I know that are, following at least as many of the base level concepts as they can, right? Like, because if we go by ones that are totally decentralized, in my opinion, that's basically none of them. So we wouldn't be listing any of them. So, but yeah, I mean, they're as decentralized as they can be. They're still mined, right? So, but we're not going to be able to get rid of all the mined coins.
I mean, there's obviously differences between each coin, right? And not every single coin is going to be exactly the way that Qortal is. Otherwise, you would have been part of that project and built that coin, right?
Yeah, we just need the ones that have, they did their best to make it as good as they could at the time with the technology that they had and whatever, right? So yeah, we're going to make definitely a couple other listings happen here in the near future. And that will not take that much time. So the thing is that we just need to make the trade portal work a little bit differently. So we'll first probably make the trade portal work differently and have buy and sell orders on Litecoin. Then as soon as that functions, we can list a couple other coins because it's exactly the same thing. And it should be a relatively short period of time for that as well.
And it sounds like, from my understanding of it too, that might actually speed up transactions as well as to how fast they occur. Because I know now, I mean, they're a little bit different from like a centralized exchange. And people should realize that, on a centralized exchange, they may happen in like milliseconds or whatnot.
But they're just moving numbers in a database. They're not actually moving coins.
Exactly. I was going to say it's because, the architecture of like inside the Cordal trade portal, I never am relinquishing control of my coin, nor is the other person. Whereas on the centralized exchange, they own it all, man. Like they have all of it. And then, like you said, it's just moving numbers in a database, like in an Excel file. And that's why it moves quick. So because there's added layers of security and protection in Cordal, it may not look exactly like a centralized exchange.
And it's not meant to be exactly like a centralized exchange. It's called a trade portal for a reason. I did not call it a DEX. Notice that. Yes, technically it is a DEX, but no, I do not call it a DEX because it's not one. It's not built that way. It's built to be, you put an order up on a board, someone else can come pick that order and choose whichever one they want and buy or sell whichever order. So there's no ability for that to be manipulated in the traditional way. So yeah, it's not an exchange. It's the trade portal. We're literally trading from one coin to the other, directly from one chain to the other. As far as making it go any faster, not really, because it's really just reliant upon the chain that we're trading with, because QORTs, the block times are 1 minute in QORT. So we're basically the fastest block time anyway. So anybody else who has a block time that's higher than us, we're waiting on 3 transactions to happen on their chain. And that's why the trade with Litecoin takes on average about 7 minutes to complete, because 3 transactions with enough confirmations on the Litecoin network, it's always the other network that's slowing down the trades. In theory, the fastest a trade could be completed is 3 minutes. Because if they both had 1 minute block time, So, I mean, but 3 minutes for a direct trade worldwide from one currency to another directly, like that's pretty badass. So I'm not really worried about the time that it takes for a trade to complete. Just that the trades are done the right way, that we're doing a real cross-chain trade that you can verify by checking a block explorer on either chain and actually see that we're literally trading from one chain to another. And so that's the main focus here. It's really just that the technology is done the right way, not really that it's faster or anything like that. It's really just about protecting the users, making sure that there's no centralized thing for to be hacked and for them all of a sudden to lose $50,000 that they had on this exchange, right? And that's happened to me countless times. I don't even want to add up as much money as I've lost on centralized exchanges and centralized services. So yeah, it's really just about protecting our community, making sure that, yeah, we can trade. Sure, it might take 7 minutes, but then you have spendable Litecoin or spendable QORT that you've purchased or sold from a direct trade, right? So it's really like, yeah, it's not as fast, but who cares? Because this is like something that's so much better and so much safer. I don't think people are really going to care about the trade taking a few minutes to complete.
Exactly. And that's also why I bring it up, so people understand it's a little bit different, but that's okay,
yes,
and that's good. So like the expectation part of it is like, wait, why isn't this thing running as fast? Well, here's why. And because of a lot of really good security protocols that are there too.
Yes.
So for your protection.
There will not be the, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt there. There will not be the ability to do partial orders, even when we change it. I mean, we could potentially do that in the future, but that's like a whole lot of low level changes that we don't really want to make right now. So you still will have to purchase the entirety of the order. So that still opens up room for people to be placing smaller orders or larger orders, and for people to be able to pick and choose which one they want. They can still choose any order, so they're not stuck behind a wall waiting for somebody to buy that big order so they can get the one below it. So it's really, you're still going to have a set number. So even on the buy side, you're going to have a set number that you say, I want to buy this many at this price. And that person says, okay, I'll sell that many at that price to you, right? So it's just going to be the same thing on the buy and the sell side. So people ask about partial orders all the time. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that is something we could potentially work out in the future, but that requires a bunch of low-level changes to the way that the ATs function. Right now, they need a set number so that they know how much to transact, right? So we have to have that set number there, but I think that's fine, because then it gives other people who are trying to sell smaller amounts a reason for other people who are trying to buy smaller amounts to buy from them instead. So it's really like, it's fairness still too, right? Like, so I like the way that it works, and I'm not really focused on trying to change those kinds of things, but I do like the idea of being able to have buy orders too. So,
and I'll say from the standpoint of, just a community member, that's low level on my priority list of the things that I care about, as opposed to some of the other stuff we talked about as to how Cordal and the blockchain can be adopted, and the data nodes and other things as well. Like, those are more important things, and I would imagine many other community members would probably agree, versus
everybody's really stoked about the data storage.
Yeah.
Partial order is just really not on the priority list at all. So there were some issues before we had full stability where certain coins were getting stuck in certain transactions. We are developing 3 new API calls that will be able to unstick those, so that you guys who have coins you think are lost, they're not lost. There's no way to really lose coin on the trade portal, except for one old bug that did happen that we fixed a long time ago, but that hasn't happened in a long time. So most of the people that have orders that they think are lost, or coins that they think are lost, they're not lost. The system just got a little confused because of the instability of the network, and now they're stuck in a transaction somewhere. So we will be having 3 new APIs to get rid of that.
I'll verify personally that I had a stuck coin and 25 Litecoin. That's not nothing. And that got back to me, no problem. So
nice.
What you're saying is,
you can't lose coin. Yeah.
It's on the blockchain. It's there. I mean, you could even see like the wallet it's sitting in, and you're like, oh, it's just not attached to the one that's supposed to be there. We just need to, switch a couple wires.
So there's a few little bugs and stuff that we did have because of the network instability. But now with the newfound stability we have, I don't think those issues should happen anymore. But we do have a method that we're developing to fix the ones that have already happened. So people that are in that position will be able to get their coins back. I mean, I've even personally refunded people even that haven't actually lost coin. I just go ahead and gave it to them anyway. So they'll get double credited. So they should be happy too. So yeah, it's really like, we're just getting through these little early project bug things that we need to fix, but overall the platform is incredible, and I'm very, very happy with where we are. And again, thank you so much to Cal for all of his work. Without him, we would be so much further behind where we are now. He and his wife built the new consensus for us, basically. And so thank you guys. And those guys were just community members, so that this just goes to show the open source way of doing things. It works. So yeah, I'm super stoked with where we are, and data storage is right around the corner. The trade portal modifications and new coin listings right around the corner. A bunch of changes in the UI are definitely right around the corner as well. There's already changes that are made on the GitHub. So if you compile it from source, it actually looks different than the release version now. We just haven't gotten a chance to actually release it yet. So there are changes that are already made there that fixes the copy paste issues for Mac, fixes a couple other things, and it shows you blocks minted right there above or below your level, which is pretty cool too. So there's some stuff that's already done.
Something you haven't even touched on is the auto update feature inside.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Itself.
A lot of the very base level stuff that we've done that makes Qortal so much different than other blockchains, like the ability to automatically update the entire network, which is like totally mind blowing for most people who understand how blockchain stuff works. Like, and we can do this with a transaction on the chain itself that is signed by a certain number of the people in the developer group on the chain. So it's really, really cool. It's not just me deciding to make these changes myself. It's literally has to be signed by 60% of the developer group saying, yes, okay, we approve this update before it actually goes out. And it's all done on a transaction. So that block, once it hits, you download the update, it automatically updates, and you're good to go. It's pretty incredible. Like having a blockchain that automatically updates is amazing.
Yeah, and I said this to you when we were chatting offline before, that to me, a lot of the work that's been going on right now is, the analogy to building a house, where when you're doing renovation to it, everybody wants to go do like the master bath and all this other stuff that makes it, cosmetic, and, the resale value goes up. But the things that have been happening have really been like the insulation, reinforcing
foundation,
the foundation, making sure there's no cracks in it. And it's like, that's the stuff that makes sure that your house doesn't fall apart 10 or 15 or 20 years from now. Maybe you don't see it on first glance, the difference between like a crappy foundation and a good one, but you're going to notice that down the line. So like building all of this foundational infrastructure is vital. And I think that's also a component where even if you don't understand blockchain, you can understand how important that is just in the context of your own house, and why this project will be valuable a year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 200 years from now, hopefully, right?
Right. It's meant to outlive all of us, all the founders. It's meant to outlive. That's another reason why we do have the ability to transfer privileges from an account to another account. So like if a founder wanted to, they could transfer their account to their son or whatever. And so we've thought about all of that kind of stuff and making sure that the foundation and the infrastructure, because this platform itself is meant to be infrastructure. So if it's meant to be infrastructure, the infrastructure of the infrastructure must be super, super stable, right? Like it must be super, super good. So that is, all of the focus of the development recently has been on stuff that's not super visible. So people can't really like see all the stuff, but they can see the difference in the stability. And now we've been getting people going, wow, every time I send a message in QChat, it's going through immediately. Every time I'm trying to do any sort of transaction, it's going through exactly the way it's supposed to. It's like, yes, good, thank you. Like, so you are seeing the differences. And now we'll be able to do more visible things like with the data storage and new features and new things on QChat, video, voice communications, all kinds of cool stuff that can come along with the data storage. So it's going to be really, really cool to see what we can get accomplished here now that we've got that stability.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll kind of wrap up on this note, but I feel like we're right at the precipice where in the beginning, there's been a lot of this like beta testing type feel. It's gotten so much more fluid. And I mean, kudos to everyone in the community who's just been helpful and hanging on and understanding that like, oh, there's a broken pipe here, but don't worry, like we know how to fix that. Yeah, no big deal. To all those people,
and coming across all those errors is really important too. Like, and all the people that are pointing out all these issues and stuff. It's not like, oh no, issues. Like we're not going, oh damn it. No, we're going, thank you for pointing these out, because now we can fix them. If we're not aware of them, we can't fix stuff we're not aware of. So, and we fixed nearly every issue that's been brought up already, right? Like I've not seen one that we haven't either fixed already or that is in the process of being fixed now. Like so, and people know then that the development team knows what they're doing. They know then that this is not just some fly-by-night project that doesn't care about little issues like that or will give you some BS answer. No, sorry, we have that issue. Sorry that you experienced that issue. We're going to go ahead and take care of that, and we'll let you know when it's complete and what you can do to resolve your specific problem, right? Like so, and since everyone controls their own node, everyone controls their own individual sovereignty on the platform, they have to do stuff themselves a lot of the time, right? Like, sure, there's some stuff that we can do, but there's only so much we can do in the case of like, if you need to refund a transaction, you're going to have to be the one to do that. We can give you the tools to do it, but you have to do it. And that also teaches people like more about how the system actually works. And so then people can get a better understanding too. So I think it's, I don't know, it does take the right type of people to be part of it at this stage, because it's not super polished. It's not super like, yeah, the installation of it could be a little simpler, and there's like a lot of little things that can be improved, and that will happen too. And now they know that we've got the abilities to do that, seeing all the things that we've done so far, and it's just going to get better. So
but also for all those people that are willing to accept a little bit more of an arduous journey to begin with, you're going to be rewarded for it, right? Because you get into the project earlier, and we haven't even talked about, I mean, you talked a little bit about the trajectory of the launch. There's only, I think, 2 million or less than 2 million QORT roughly out there right now. So for everyone in the context of their mind, there's only 21 million Bitcoin ever. And I believe, if I remember looking at the scale of how this thing is going to go, we're not even going to approach half of that number for the next 10 years.
It's a long time. I forget
10
the exact
million
numbers.
Or something.
It's very slow. So if you look at it just now, like, so right now we started with a 5 coin reward, and now we're at 4.75. It continues to drop by 0.25 every 6 months in blocks, right? So it'll keep going lower and lower until it gets to 2 coins, and that's going to take a long time to get there. But like, even if you go by, we're close to a year now, so roughly 2 million coins per year. But that's not right, because it'll drop. The reward drops every 6 months too, so it's going to be less and less. But yeah, even if it's 2 million coins per year, that's tiny, right? Like, that's tiny. Yeah. Like most other crypto projects have a lot more.
You mentioned, Doge before. Gosh, I think there's hundreds of a billion, maybe 100 billion.
Yeah, multiple hundred billions.
Yeah. So, again, for anyone who's kind of newer to this space or thinking about the context of the numbers, numbers are on your side, especially when it comes to, this project getting adoption. And I think we've really crossed over a threshold where a lot of things are going to get smoother. Things are going to get easier.
Absolutely.
I'll plug it again. The Cortector device that you got as well. Like, those things make it super simple for people to literally just plug it in,
turn it on,
and you're good to go.
You're good to go.
So, more and more people are going to be coming into the project, which is only going to help from, again, that scarcity standpoint. There's only so many coins out there. The value of these things is going to go up.
And the sooner you start minting, the sooner your level goes up more, the sooner you get into those higher reward tiers. And then again, you have to be online. So even if there are a bunch of level 5s, if they're not online, then they're not getting rewarded. So if you're a level 5 and you're online when 20 of other ones are having issues or not online, you're getting the extra reward for that. So it's really like your active contribution is all that matters. So it doesn't really matter the overall number of minters. It's only the overall number of minters who are online all the time, right? So it's really an interesting system, like, and how it's going to play out long term. I'm really excited to see how it's going to go, because I think that the design is pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. I mean, coming up with a lot of it, but I like it, right? Yeah.
And, for everyone who's going to listen to this, if you're thinking about helping the project, and I'd say it as much as I can, when you go in the trade portal, buy the development fund QORT, right?
That does help. Yes.
It's not always the cheapest, but, you're talking about like maybe a couple penny difference or a dime difference or whatever it might be. And I always think of it as like, don't be penny wise and pound foolish. If you help support the development of the project, your coins will ultimately be worth more sooner versus just buying.
You can already see that now with the stability that we've gotten because of a lot of these donations. I would not be able to be full time if it wouldn't have been for people buying those 333 orders in the trade portal. Like, so that really, really helps to keep us being able to focus on this. So yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely appreciated for anybody who puts their buying power towards purchasing from the dev fund.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess anything that you want to close out with before, maybe I'll just run through a couple things and, where people can get, involved in the community. Qortal.org would be the place to start. There's some really good documentation on top of there. That'll teach you how to get set up. Yeah, what Cordal is, right? A bunch of those basics. And then also, we've got a really good thriving Discord community, a really good thriving Telegram community. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get in touch, and lots of people like me and Jason and others that are there that will help you with tech support too. So if you do get stuck and you're like, I thought I'd be able to handle this, but there's one or two snags that I've got that they're unique to your machine or whatever,
Just
there's always
ask.
somebody there. Yeah, exactly. There's always somebody there who can help you out. Or even if they're not there that second, have a bit of patience and yeah, you'll
Yeah.
get it resolved. So yeah, man,
Yeah,
I really
absolutely.
appreciate the time and having the conversation here because
Yeah, thank you.
I know you're excited about it. I'm excited about it as well. And I think as people hear these things, they're gonna figure out that like this is different. This
It's
is
different.
not
Yep.
just another clone of another Bitcoin or Ethereum, which we won't even go into. But
Yeah.
yeah, this one's a little something special. So if you want to be part of something special, come find the Qortal community. So